The Redeemer, aka the Anti-Spawn origin explored. Here's looking at Heaven's very own counterpart of the Hellspawn, the holier version of course, the one with the power to decapitate a Hellspawn, a creation of the terrific trio Todd McFarlane, Grant Morrison, and Greg Capullo. The character of the Redeemer, aka the Anti-Spawn, first appeared in the 16th issue of the Image Comics Spawn. This righteous warrior here is soused with celestial matter in order to battle the very forces of darkness and also hell itself. So far there have been 3 hosts of the Redeemer. Jason Wynn has been the first host, whose lack of purity prevented him from harnessing his true powers. The second host has been the religious ex-convict Phil Timper, who without a doubt was a lot powerful than Wynn, but did not remain the Redeemer for a longer period. The third and also the existing host has been Eddie Frank, who indisputably happens to be way stronger than both Wynn and Timper, but somehow he managed to hold on to his past life memories prior to becoming the Redeemer. This brings us to the main contents of today's video, where we will be exploring the Redeemer in detail, all the 3 hosts, and what is it that makes the Redeemer so strong. You ready? Let's do this then! Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is the Redeemer? Every once in a while, the ethereal masters are seen seeking the favor of the Star Hive in order to create moral, resilient, and faithful warriors of God. The heavenly space station would only pick out human beings who they felt would be worthy enough to be the hosts of the Redeemer, and then transform them into celestial fighters infused with elemental fire. The sole purpose of the Redeemer is to hunt down hellspawns wherever they may be, and the elemental fire that they are charged with is heaven's equivalent to hell's necroplasm. Also, much like the Hellspawns, the Redeemers have the same level of aggression inside their souls, but the root of their rage happens to be that of light and not the anger of darkness. Now, when one becomes a Redeemer, they neither have any knowledge of their former life, nor do they have any knowledge of them becoming a Redeemer when they return back to the human world. The only exception to this case has been Eddie Frank, who we will be discussing later. Now that one has a fair understanding of the Redeemer, let's explore his comic appearances while focusing particularly on the Redeemer storyline. Issue 16. New Orders from Upstairs. One look at the town of Simmonsville and it will seem to you just like any other regular place. But soon the readers learn that it is a township which is situated in an isolated area of Nevada desert in front of an old nuclear testing site. Post getting a proper peek at Simmonsville, the readers finally learn that in spite of the town's realistic look, the entire place is fully composed of psychoplasm. For those of you wondering what psychoplasm is, it is primarily the substance that hell is composed of, and it has this ability to change in response to mental states. For instance, whatever one thinks, desires, or is afraid of, psychoplasm has the capability of literally becoming that thing. Anyway, coming back to the storyline, Simmonsville ended up opening a doorway to hell after a routine underground A-bomb test was conducted in the area. Of course, this intrigued Jason Wynn, and he sent in an armed force there to probe deeper into the matter, but the regiment never made it back. This only fascinated Wynn further, and he went to the extent of contacting the sentient presence in hell, with whom he even made a deal. Al Simmons' life in exchange of psychoplasm. Now comes the even more interesting part. The Simmonsville that's on display is made up entirely of Al Simmons' memories, but in the form of psychoplasm. Starting from the houses that he lived in, the schools that he attended, the playgrounds that he played on, to the church that he and Wanda got married at, everything is recreated right above the doorway to hell. So after the town Simmonsville was ready, Wynn invited an old friend of his, Major Vale, to give him a first-hand experience of the true power of psychoplasm. The duo are seen watching volunteers Brewer and Stevens sent in to Simmonsville from the safety of their US headquarters. The men are ambushed and mutilated beyond recognition by petrifying-looking demons who reside in the town. Coming back to Major Vale, he can hardly believe what he saw with his own eyes, and with Wynn offering him a chance to take part in the research, he tells Wynn that he'd like to take some time to think about it. The next sequence has the readers taken to New York City in the dingy, rain-swept alleyways. We get to see a closer look at Spawn, who isn't sure of himself anymore. He is aware of his death and the fact that he made a deal with the devil, but there's a horde of thoughts running wild in his mind. He fails to comprehend what he has become and addresses himself as some kind of an undead freak that has a face looking like a stale pizza and a memory that's shot to hell. With each day passing by, Spawn is discovering new things, but he still does not know what actually happened or who he really is for that matter. He knows it was Chapel who pulled the trigger, but he still does not know who it is that gave Chapel the order to do so, or in simple words, the one accountable for sending him to hell. With Spawn coming to a conclusion that he is dead and he still has a body, he decides to dig up his grave, but only after he is done letting off some steam. With a bunch of street thugs attempting to burn a bum, Spawn intervenes the situation, only to end up defending the targeted bum and beating the shit out of the hoodlums. Meanwhile, not too far away in Midtown Manhattan, at the Terran Affairs headquarters, Angel Gabrielle receives orders from heaven to have the orbital Angel station empower a human agent to destroy Spawn. As the procedure begins and the transference is activated, Jason Wynn, who's seen completing his daily workout, is brought up to the orbital Angel station and fused with elemental fire. The fact that Wynn is seen screaming gives one a fair idea of how painful the process is. The issue ends with Spawn visiting his grave in Virginia and digging it up only to find his skeletal body lying there, much to his horror. As for Wynn, he is transformed as the Redeemer, addressed as the Soldier of Light, and given the task of destroying the Hellspawn. Issue 17. Time is up, Hellspawn. The orbital Angel station is seen completing the transformation of their anti-Spawn, post which the Angels send him after Spawn whilst praying for a swift kill. Like a koya catching its breath, a silver-white comet is seen exploding down through the upper atmosphere, and in no time, the Redeemer is seen coming face to face with his adversary Spawn, challenging the latter to an intense battle. Please know that right now, both are unaware of each other's real identities. The Redeemer is seen ferociously attacking Spawn, throwing hits that almost feel like getting hit by a speeding freight train. Redeemer made it very clear that he has an upper hand, especially when he is fused with elemental fire now. Another blow from the Redeemer knocks Spawn inside what looks like the church in Simmonsville, the one where the latter got married. The demons surrounding the unconscious Spawn attempt to take his suit and be warriors themselves, but the Redeemer interrupts them from doing so and states to them that Spawn only belongs to him before projecting an energy blast at the creatures and setting them on fire. It is a horrifying sight, even for Spawn for that matter, as he manages to regain consciousness. It dawns upon Spawn that he is not being able to defend himself and that the Redeemer happens to be way stronger than him. When another attempt of Spawn to take out the Redeemer goes to waste, the Hellspawn is seen teleporting himself away back to the alleyways of the Bowery, only to discover that the Redeemer has traced him back even there. The anti-Spawn, while making his grand appearance, states to Spawn that he is capable of tracking him through time and space to the ends of the very world and that there is nowhere to run away from death. Another one or two blasts from the Redeemer and Spawn realizes that he will not be able to survive another attack from the Redeemer. The issue ends with anti-Spawn prepping himself up to deliver the killing blow. Issue 18. Up in Flames. The events of this issue are seen picking up right from where the previous issue ended. The anti-Spawn is seen ready to strike his final blow on Spawn and promising to make it excruciating when a couple of regular street bums prevent him from doing so. One of them, called Marty Sladek, who previously used to serve in the military, hits the Redeemer on the back of his head, and this has the latter distracted long enough to let Spawn have the opportunity to gain an advantage over the Redeemer. While the Hellspawn is seen enduring another energy blast of the Redeemer in order to protect his people, he engages in a fight with the Redeemer and somehow makes him fall to his knees. Post that, he is seen utilizing every bit of strength that he had in him and projecting a very powerful necroplasm blast on the very skull of the Redeemer. This is too much even for the Redeemer, and he is seen disappearing from there only to be drawn back to the orbital Angel station. There, he is instilled with more elemental fire to increase his power levels and to gear him up for the future encounters. But Win can hardly take it and he is seen screaming. No wonder his lack of purity is what's stopping him from exploiting his true powers. As for Spawn, he is later seen heading to Simmonsville to take it all back. He is seen burning the township to the ground when he gets interrupted by Major Vale. Spawn is able to recognize Vale, and after coming to a realization that he is sick of taking orders, especially from people like Vale, he shoots him from point-blank range as an act of vengeance for the latter's earlier crimes. Spawn is destroying everything on his way except for this one memory, which happens to be his definition of a perfect day. The sunlit spring day he asked Wanda to marry him on. The issue ends with Spawn going back to Queens with the memory that he had saved for Wanda and making her experience a brief moment of happiness before it all fades away. Other hosts of the Redeemer: Phil Timper. Say hello to the subsequent host of the Redeemer, an ex-convict who, to be honest, did not really have his life put together. He kept going in and out of prison, and it was while he was imprisoned that he found faith in the very teachings of the Bible. It would be fair to say that Phil was abruptly teleported to the orbital angel station one fine day and made to go through the same process that Win went through. He was broken down on a molecular level and infused with the elemental fire. Unlike Jason Wynn, Phil was a lot stronger, and upon receiving orders, he brought back a homeless friend of Spawn called Bobby. Apparently, Bobby had traces of hell in him after he was brought back to life by necroplasm magic. Of course, Spawn went to get his friend back, and he went to the whole extreme of infiltrating the Terran Affairs headquarters. There, he faced Phil Timper and found him way more superior than his predecessor. Full credits to Spawn for receiving a suit upgrade, which ultimately led him to sever Phil's hand. This caused the Redeemer's body to uncontrollably project pure elemental fire, and Spawn ended up escaping with Bobby. Eddie Frank. What could be amiss or improper at a well-respected police officer's house? The fact that Officer Joe Frank would end up beating his sons Eddie and Andy on a regular basis, giving the children welts and bruises all over their bodies. It's been some time that the kids have lost their mother and things started becoming noisier in their house in the Alabama neighborhood. Now it so happened that a severely bruised Spawn landed in the front yard of the Franks one fine day and was discovered by young Andy, who took him to their home shed and kept him hidden. He also made Eddie meet Spawn later, but the bruises on the children kept getting multiplied. A certain incident had Andy spill his father's last beer while taking it out of the fridge for him. This has Joe going to extreme lengths. He literally threatens the young boy with his gun while simultaneously beating both the children. Spawn, having had enough of the torture inflicted by Joe on his children, ends up scaring him in an alley in the hopes of making him treat his children properly. He is also seen leaving a little reminder all over his body, engraving the words, "I beat my kids." That doesn't stop Joe from carrying on his daily activities, and he viciously ends up beating Andy. Eddie, having had enough of his father abusing them, grabs his gun from his holster and ends up shooting Joe dead. The brothers are sent to a juvenile detention center from which they are seen escaping and commuting all the way to Manhattan in order to stay with Spawn. Eddie soon gets into the drug business to provide for himself and Andy. But one thing leads to another. We are stressing on Eddie murdering his boss Snake, Andy getting shot and then healed by Spawn due to a certain course of events. In short, the boys are seen coming back to their neighborhood in Alabama. Now, after Eddie was done serving time at the juvenile detention, he was brainwashed thoroughly by the people there who blamed Al Simmons for the position that he was put in. It was only after he returned back home that he was mystically transported to the orbital angel station and made the next Redeemer. While he lost all of his previous memories, his false hatred for Spawn remained with him somehow. No wonder he was able to track down Spawn, and when he did, he hit at him with such a powerful energy blast that it sent both him and Spawn into hell. While Spawn was able to escape from there, Eddie was trapped there for a while. While he is later seen escaping hell with the help of Nyx, the young Wiccan witch, he has his wings eventually ripped off and reverted back to his human form by Spawn. Eddie is reported to have returned as the anti-Spawn yet again and also have an angel wife called Victoria. What makes the Redeemer so strong? For someone who is in possession of a multitude of supernatural abilities just at his disposal, this powerful agent for heaven is exceedingly strong, and there is no two ways about it. We will begin with the power of elemental fire manipulation. This fire can be focused into a blast that is powerful enough to cause damage to the hellspawns and also solidify the blast into the shape of a blade that can actually be used to decapitate a hellspawn. Apart from this, there's superhuman strength, stamina, speed, agility, reflexes, durability, and of course, the ability to teleport. Mind you, the Redeemers also take advantage of an innate tracking ability that aids them in hunting down hellspawns wherever they may be. With this, we finally come to an end of our video here. Do hit us with your thoughts in the comment section and let us know your thoughts on the Redeemer. Also, stay tuned with us for more interesting content on the Spawn universe. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.